Have you ever been staring at a dashboard at work? Maybe it's your inbox or your team's project management software or a dozen different metric trackers, and you just feel completely
Oh,
paralyzed.
absolutely. It's a very real feeling.
Right. You have hundreds of notifications flashing red and green, charts updating in real time. And yet, despite having all of this data literally at your fingertips,
Yeah.
you sit there feeling like you have absolutely no idea what is actually going on.
Yeah, it is a deeply modern kind of anxiety. I mean, we are drowning in data but starving for clarity. The volume of information actually creates a fog.
And if you're feeling that way just managing your own workflow, imagine the sheer scale of that paralysis for executives running massive, complex organizations. Welcome to today's deep dive.
Thanks. I'm really looking forward to this one.
So, to frame this up, I'm putting on my hat as a healthcare CEO today, and joining me is our Chief Risk Officer. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore a profound shift happening in the business world right now, using some fascinating source material we found. It's a corporate strategy and growth roadmap for a company called Sophurion.
Right. And it's highly relevant to what we deal with every single day.
Exactly. We're going to look at why having more data is actually crippling decision makers
Hmm.
and, how a totally new software category called executive predictive risk intelligence is being pitched to help organizations anticipate the future rather than just constantly reacting to the past.
The source material makes a really compelling case that we are living through a massive paradigm shift. If you look at, say, the last 20 years, we've been operating in what you might call the information economy.
Right, where the goal was just to digitize everything, right?
Exactly. Collect as much data as humanly possible, store it in the cloud, put it on a screen. But this Sophurion roadmap argues we are now transitioning into the intelligence economy.
Which means having the data isn't the flex anymore.
No, because everyone possesses it. The competitive advantage is determined by how quickly an organization can synthesize that data into actionable foresight.
And the ambitious part of this roadmap is their claim that they can use AI to predict massive corporate risks. Everything from climate change impacts to geopolitical supply chain failures before they actually happen.
Which is a huge claim.
Huge. But to understand what Sophurion is actually trying to build, we first have to understand why current enterprise business software is failing leaders so spectacularly.
Right. And the roadmap introduces a framework they call the age of convergence. Historically, organizations could treat risks as, completely isolated incidents.
Like if there was a cybersecurity threat, the IT department handled it.
Yeah. Or if there was a sudden shortage of raw material, the procurement team dealt with it. They were separate silos. But in the age of convergence, these risks are no longer independent variables. They cascade and intersect in ways that are incredibly difficult for humans to track.
Let's ground this in a real-world scenario because the abstraction can get a little dense. Let's look at our world, the healthcare sector, which the sources actually highlight as a prime target for this technology.
It's the perfect crucible for it, honestly.
As a CEO of a large health system, I'm feeling the pressure every day. We've got staffing shortages, pharmaceutical supply chain disruptions, financial pressures. How does this convergence actually play out for us on a Tuesday morning?
Well, let's trace a seemingly isolated event, say a localized severe drought in a specific region of the world. In the past, a hospital administrator wouldn't even look at that news.
Right, it wouldn't even be on our radar.
But today, that drought severely impacts local agriculture and water supplies, which then disrupts the manufacturing capabilities of a facility that produces key active pharmaceutical ingredients.
So a weather event suddenly becomes a supply chain event.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. Because that facility slows down, there is suddenly a global shortage of a specific critical medication. The scarcity causes sudden inflation for those drugs on the spot market.
Which instantly blows a hole in my hospital system's operating budget.
Right, and that financial pressure forces the hospital to freeze hiring, just as population health data shows an unexpected spike in a respiratory illness in your region.
Oh, wow. So now I have staffing shortages, a lack of critical medication, and overcrowded emergency rooms.
All while a sophisticated ransomware group decides to target your legacy billing software because they know your IT security team is totally distracted by the operational chaos.
That is terrifying. But it's also incredibly realistic. Environmental became operational, which became economic, which opened the door to a cyber threat. It's a complete domino effect.
Which brings up the core problem. As the CEO and Chief Risk Officer, we actually have software tracking all of those individual data points.
Right, we have one platform for cybersecurity, we have a dashboard tracking our ESG metrics, we have financial software, operational trackers.
But none of those systems are talking to each other. Sophurion identifies this specific paralysis as the global intelligence gap.
The global intelligence gap. I like that phrasing.
Yeah, the hospital has the data somewhere in its servers. The dots are all there. But because the systems are totally fragmented into these silos, the executive leadership has no mechanical way to connect those dots until the crisis has already hit the emergency room floor.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle, but your team has handed you pieces from 5 completely different boxes, and you don't have the picture on the cover to guide you.
That's a perfect analogy. And the traditional tools organizations use for this, they're called GRC tools: governance, risk, and compliance.
Right.
But according to the roadmap, these tools are fundamentally broken for the modern era. Traditional GRC tools are like an autopsy report.
An autopsy report.
Yeah, they give an organization a meticulous, perfectly accurate, legally compliant breakdown of exactly why the patient died. They log the compliance failure, track the historical loss, audit the past.
But they don't prevent the death. Sophurion is arguing that organizations don't need a better autopsy report. We need, like, a preventative wearable monitor that warns us of the heart attack 3 weeks before it happens.
That is the exact pivot the roadmap outlines.
Yeah.
If the fundamental flaw is that enterprise software is designed to look backwards, the solution is building an entirely new architecture designed to look forward.
Which leads directly to Sophurion's core innovation. They state explicitly they are not trying to build a slightly better GRC tool or just a more colorful ESG dashboard.
No, they are attempting to define an entirely new software category altogether. They call it EPRI, Executive Predictive Risk Intelligence.
EPRI. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the underlying concept is fascinating.
It is. The company was founded by Stephen W. Pierce. He authored a book called From Warming to Warfare, and he created a framework known as Predictive Sustainability Intelligence.
Right, and the stated goal of EPRI is to cut through all that fragmented noise and answer 3 simple questions for an executive. What is happening, what may happen next, and what should we do about it?
The emphasis is heavily on that predictive element. The platform aims to ingest all those disparate data streams. The weather reports, financial markets, cyber threat feeds, our internal hospital inventory.
And identify the invisible patterns connecting them.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. I am struggling to buy this, to be honest. I mean, AI hallucinates. We see it all the time.
Sure.
If this system tells me, as a healthcare CEO, to completely upend my surgical supply chain or shift millions of dollars in budget because of some predicted multivariable crisis, and the AI is just wrong,
Right, you'd be in trouble.
I just cost the organization millions and potentially compromised patient care. It sounds a bit like Minority Report for Business. How can a leader actually trust a machine with decisions of that magnitude?
The source material is highly conscious of that exact skepticism, and they dedicate significant space to addressing it. The mandate of EPRI, according to Sophurion, is preparedness, not predictions.
Preparedness, not prediction.
Yeah, the AI is not being designed as a crystal ball to tell you exactly what will happen with 100% certainty. It's a probabilistic engine. It evaluates thousands of variables to highlight vulnerabilities that a human team simply does not have the processing power to spot in real time.
So it's looking at the drought, the geopolitical tensions, and my internal inventory levels, and calculating that this specific combination of factors has, say, an 80% probability of leading to a pharmaceutical bottleneck in 3 weeks.
Exactly, and crucially, the roadmap emphasizes that EPRI uses AI to augment human judgment, not replace it. The human executive is always in the loop.
That makes me feel a bit better.
The AI does the heavy lifting of synthesizing millions of data points, but it surfaces that intelligence so the human leader can apply their lived experience, their understanding of hospital politics, and their strategic vision to make the final call.
So the software doesn't make the decision. It frames the decision environment.
Exactly.
But a theory on paper doesn't help a hospital administrator staring down a crisis. We need a translation layer. I mean, you can't just hand a chief risk officer a spreadsheet of 1 million climate probabilities and tell them to figure it out.
No, you definitely cannot. And that is where we move from the concept of EPRI to Sophurion's flagship product, which they call Sophurion Horizon.
Okay, let's get into Horizon.
Sophurion Horizon is pitched as an AI-powered strategic intelligence platform. Mechanically, what it does is ingest a company's internal proprietary data. This means integrating with our existing software infrastructure, our financial records, operational metrics, localized supply chain
And
maps.
then it takes that internal reality and overlays it with massive external intelligence feeds.
Right. Macroeconomics, real-time geopolitical developments, climate data, regulatory shifts.
But my obvious question is, how does this not just become a louder, more annoying dashboard that just adds to my cognitive overload?
The mechanism they use to prevent that overload is how the AI scores and filters the information. Horizon gives the organization an overall intelligence score and an emerging risk index.
Okay, metrics, that helps.
But the true mechanism of value, according to the roadmap, is how it translates abstract, conceptual risks into hard, empirical numbers. It features a metric called financial exposure.
Here is where it gets really interesting. Let's unpack the mechanics of that. How exactly does the AI translate a geopolitical protest in a distant country into a precise dollar amount of loss for our hospital system?
It does this by deeply mapping the hospital's internal procurement data against global logistics networks. Let's say we use a central software system to manage our inventory and finances, an ERP or enterprise resource planning system.
Right, like an SAP or Oracle system.
Exactly. Horizon integrates with that ERP. It knows exactly how many specialized surgical kits we have on the shelf, how many are used per week, and who supplies them.
Okay, I'm following.
When a port strike happens overseas, the AI doesn't just flag the news story. It instantly cross-references global shipping manifests, traces that port strike down to the exact manufacturer of our surgical kits, calculates the delay, looks at the spot market price for alternative kits, and tells you. This event exposes you to a projected $4.2 million increase in operational costs over the next quarter is unmitigated.
Wow, that shifts the entire dynamic of the executive suite. I don't have to spend 3 days asking a team of human analysts to run scenarios to figure out if a news story matters to us. The platform has already done the synthesis and quantified the threat.
And Horizon takes it a step further by providing what they call strategic recommendations. It doesn't just drop a $4.2 million problem on your desk and walk away.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. It suggests practical, algorithmic actions based on historical data and market conditions. It might suggest diversifying specific vendor relationships immediately, adjusting inventory par levels before market prices spike, or prioritizing elective surgeries that don't rely on the compromised supplies.
But going back to my earlier issue of trusting the AI, the roadmap details that Horizon includes a confidence rating alongside these recommendations, right?
Yes, exactly. The dashboard provides transparency by scoring the strength of the underlying data, the consistency of the analytical findings, and the historical reliability of the intelligence sources.
So if the confidence rating is low because the geopolitical situation is highly volatile and the data is murky, I know to tread carefully.
Right. But if it's high, you have the backing to move aggressively. It attempts to actually quantify the uncertainty.
Now, Sophurion's roadmap outlines a vision that extends far beyond just a single dashboard for human executives. They are planning a massive ecosystem of interconnected intelligence platforms.
Yeah, beyond Horizon, the architecture includes Shield for insurance and resilience intelligence, Atlas for global geopolitical monitoring, and Terra for environmental, climate, and infrastructure intelligence.
And the crown jewel of this future roadmap is a product they call Sophurion Nexus. Nexus introduces a concept called digital-to-digital, or D2D, intelligence networks.
This is where the ambition shifts from just building software to building true intelligence infrastructure.
How so?
Well, currently, even with an advanced tool like Horizon, a human has to read the intelligence, make a decision, and then manually go into their ERP system to actually execute the change.
Right, someone has to type in the new purchase order.
Exactly. D2D intelligence exchange means Sophurion aims to become an embedded intelligence layer that communicates directly with those enterprise systems automatically, machine to machine.
Think of it like a biological central nervous system. If your hand touches a hot stove, your brain doesn't print out a detailed PDF report about thermodynamics. Hand it to your conscious mind and ask you to read it and decide what action to take.
Right. Your nervous system bypasses the conscious delay and pulls your hand back instantly.
Nexus is attempting to build a central nervous system for corporate operations.
In a mature D2D ecosystem, if the Atlas platform detects the sudden regulatory export freeze that threatens our pharmaceutical supply, it doesn't just alert the chief risk officer.
It takes action.
Based on pre-approved parameters set by the human executives, Nexus can automatically trigger a workflow in the hospital's procurement software to immediately issue purchase orders to backup vendors in a different, stable region.
The intelligence flows directly from the risk detection machine to the operational execution machine. That is wild.
That microsecond speed could literally be the difference between securing the last available raw materials on the market at a reasonable price and having to cancel life-saving procedures because the supply chain dried up while an analyst was drafting a memo.
And the roadmap emphasizes that this architecture creates incredibly powerful network effects. As more organizations, enterprise systems, and supply chain vendors plug into this Sophurion ecosystem, the intelligence becomes richer and more accurate for everyone involved.
The AI gets smarter because its contextual map of the world just keeps getting wider.
The technology sounds revolutionary, but we have to look at the economics. As a CEO, integrating a predictive AI ecosystem into a multi-billion-dollar hospital network is an incredibly expensive, disruptive undertaking. How does Sophurion justify the massive capital expenditure required to implement this?
The sources outline an economic framework they call organizational resilience economics. For decades, businesses, especially healthcare systems, have viewed risk management and resilience as a defensive cost center.
Oh, absolutely. It's always treated like buying an insurance policy or paying for fire alarms. You spend millions of dollars hoping you never have to use the system, and it fundamentally drags down your profit margins. It's viewed as a necessary evil.
But Sophurion is essentially arguing that this technology turns risk management into a sword rather than just a shield. Their pitch is that resilience is no longer a defensive mechanism, but a proactive, strategic advantage, which they term resilience capital.
Resilience capital. So an organization that can absorb shocks, adapt to uncertainty, and pivot faster than its competitors is intrinsically more valuable to investors and more reliable to its patients.
The justification hinges entirely on the cost of inaction. Let's return to our healthcare scenario. If our traditional backward-looking software tells us we are currently short on a critical pharmaceutical, that is a reactive alert.
Right. The shortage has already arrived. Patient care is actively compromised. Elective surgeries that drive hospital revenue have to be canceled.
And the procurement team is forced to pay exorbitant spot market prices to secure whatever dwindling supply is left. The financial and reputational damage is catastrophic.
But with executive predictive risk intelligence, that same hospital system might see the synthesized alert from the Terra and Atlas platforms a month in advance. We buy up the necessary inventory at standard prices before the crisis ever hits the mainstream news.
Exactly. The cost of inaction, the premium prices, canceled procedures, regulatory fines, brand damage is almost always vastly higher than the cost of adopting the intelligence platform.
So identifying that bottleneck a month before a competing hospital network allows an organization to secure alternative resources. We turn a potential operational disaster into a moment where we maintain absolute continuity while our competitors falter.
Whether Sophurion can flawlessly execute on that promise in the real world remains to be seen, but strategically, it is a fascinating pivot in how corporate value is generated.
It's basically a market share grab disguised as crisis prevention. And this applies far beyond healthcare, right?
Oh, definitely. The roadmap targets financial institutions, aiming to help them assess long-term portfolio exposure to interconnected global risks. It targets the massive insurance industry,
Pushing them to evolve from relying purely on historical actuarial tables to using forward-looking climate and cyber modeling.
right, to price their policies more accurately. And they are targeting governments, offering this intelligence layer for national infrastructure resilience.
The sheer scope of what they are attempting to build is staggering. They are trying to fundamentally rewire how large entities interact with reality.
They really are.
Think about how this applies to your own life and your own decisions. When you look at your personal finances, you likely look at your bank statement or a budgeting app to see what you already spent over the last 30 days.
Which is the autopsy report.
Right. What Sophurion is talking about here would be like a personal AI analyzing global macroeconomic trends, local real estate developments, and your personal earning trajectory, and telling you, based on converging factors, the interest rate for the mortgage you want is going to spike by 2% in 4 months, while your specific industry is facing a localized downturn. Lock in your rate today.
That's a great way to put it.
The shift from tracking your past to optimizing your future is a critical evolution, whether you are running a Fortune 500 hospital or just managing your own career. Having the data is no longer enough. You have to have the intelligence to know what the data is quietly warning you about.
I think there is a final, rather provocative thought to pull from this source material, something that frames the next decade of technology.
Let's hear it.
We have spent the last 20 years building search engines, databases, and generative AI that can answer almost any question we ask them. We have mastered the art of finding answers. But as the world enters this incredibly complex, interwoven age of convergence, the true value of future technology will not be in answering our questions. The true value will be in systems that can continuously tell us which questions we haven't even realized we need to ask yet.
Wow. Because if you are staring at a monitor and it is tracking 50 different metrics in flashing red, the real danger isn't the noise you can see. The real danger is the silent, cascading failure happening just off screen that you didn't even know you were supposed to be looking for. Until next time, keep diving deep.